ghost activity. Quite often, as soon as you walk into this area here, you will see your monitors pick up stuff, ghosty stuff, and usually after you've been here for a little while testing them, they'll get up and leave. And that's what's really weird, but they don't stay here when people are in here. They get up and leave. And quite often the little girl sits on this carousel horse.
Does she?
I've seen her here on this thing quite a few times. Electronically, I'm speaking, not just individually. But you can take a EMF reader, and it'll get really active around here sometimes.
We actually had last time we were here on that, when you had that saddle up on the floor, we actually had we had a spike on it.
Yeah, she likes to ride on that too.
What was it?
There's a saddle upstairs.
Oh,
I used to have it here in the middle of the waiting room, but when my patient load went from young people to older people, I got rid of it because I was afraid some old person might trip over it. Yeah. Now here's where it gets interesting in here.
The stairwell?
Well, you have the stairwell, and
see, I've never been back here.
you have, okay. I was working, sitting on this stool, and an assistant was sitting over here, and the, well, that's interesting. The chair was back, and we were sitting down working on the patient. And so that's about where we were. And something came back in here and stood right behind me. Well, the assistant, thought that it was the woman at the front desk. So she glanced up and she said, "What do you want?" Because usually they come back here for the question. She didn't say anything, she just stood behind me. And she looked up again and said, "What do you want?" And the girl didn't say anything. And she looked similar to the gal at the front desk at that time, so she thought that's who it was. Well, then all of a sudden I got this strange hair on the back of the neck, cold feeling. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, something's not right here. And as I started to turn, she ran down this way, and that door was closed, and the sound of her footfalls just went straight through that door. She just disappeared. Well, the girl who was working here jumped off of her stool and ran over to this window here, and she was leaning here saying, "Where did she go?" She thought that she thought it was really a real person. And I was standing here saying, "That wasn't anybody out front, it was a ghost." And she said, "Oh, it couldn't have been." I said, "It was." And then the patient, of course, she said, "Well, I kind of saw something out of the corner of my eye of someone standing there." And I said, "Well, I felt her." And the assistant, of course, was talking to her. And she still didn't believe that it was not the girl out front. So she said, "1 minute." She went running out there and she said, "Were you just back there?" And she said, "What are you talking about?" I wasn't back there. And she said, "Well, there was someone back there standing behind Dr. Grimes." And she said, "There's no one has come through here." Well, she came back with the most puzzled look on her face, and finally it dawned on her it had to be a ghost. And another time I was working on a patient here who couldn't lie back because she has a bad back. So I was standing working on her. I'd taken an x-ray and I sent the assistant over to the other room to develop the x-ray. And I saw through here a woman standing in front of that painting. And she was standing with her hands like this, and this bar here blocked my view of her face. I couldn't see exactly who she was, but I could see her standing there. Well, I thought that she was the one I sent to develop the x-ray. So I was standing there, and I said, "Well, do you have my x-ray?" And she didn't move. And I thought, well, that's odd. I said, "Yoo-hoo, do you have my x-ray?" Nothing. Well, I started to move here toward the window to see what was wrong. She moved really quick over this way, and then behind this wall here on the other side, she started making noises like this. I thought, well, that's really weird. So I ran around the wall to the other side of the room here, and there was no one there. Well, I came back in and I asked the patient, I said, "Did you hear someone in the other room?" And she said, "Yeah, it sounded like they were setting out instruments or something." I said, "Okay, as long as you heard something, we have a cooperation now." I said, "You just heard a ghost." And she said, "Oh, you're kidding me." And of course I explained the whole situation to her. But that was that same blonde woman who was standing behind me. These two incidents happened about 2 years apart. But that's basically what happened in here.
So you describe the woman as blonde.
And a little girl, and we have a rather large man who goes up and down the stairs. And there's a little fella who is on the other side. He doesn't come over here. And his name is Paco. In fact, if you have a recording device, he'll walk up to the recording device real close. He'll say, "I'm Paco," and he'll take off real fast. You can hear him running away.
I think Lawrence County, they caught an EVP of St. Paco.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very active, and he likes to play pranks on people. He'll pinch you and pull your hair and joke with you. Yeah, he's
Active.
He's active. He wants to joke with people.
Precocious.
He wants to, precocious. That's a good one. But anyway, the thing about it is, right in the middle of the day, with all the lights on, the music playing, drills running, people running all over the place, you'll see something, and you think it's a person, and then you realize, wait a minute, that wasn't a person, that was a ghost. And that it seems so impossible that, it's not in the middle of the night, and the place isn't totally quiet and all that. The lights aren't off.
And there's other people here.
And there's people everywhere, and yet, boom, you see a ghost. Well, anyway, that's interesting, isn't it? But just recently, this used to be a dark room. It's where we used to, back in the old days, develop our x-rays. Now we have a machine to do it with. I was in there getting something, and my assistant Jill was walking through here, headed this way. As she was right about here, she saw a man going up these stairs. She thought it was me. I heard the man in that little room there going up the stairs too, and I knew that Jill was headed this way, so I thought she had turned and was going up the stairs. Well, I was coming out of this room as Jill was coming into this room, and we met right here, and I said, "Wait a minute," and she says, "Wait a minute." She said, "I thought you went upstairs," and I said, "Well, I thought you went upstairs." And she said, "Well, who went upstairs?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." So I said, "It sounded like a man to me, or maybe someone, she's kind of heavy." So I didn't say heavy, but, it sounded like a big person. And so she went upstairs and was looking around, and there was nobody up there. And she came back down, and she said, "Holy cow, it was the ghost." So she saw the big man he sort of dwells in this stairwell. He goes up and down the stairs day and night, any time of the day that you can imagine. As I said, it might be 2 o'clock in the morning, it might be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's no rhyme or reason to it. But when he goes up and down these stairs, this is what he sounds like. Just like that.
Very audible.
There is no confusing
No question.
with anything. He's
noise.
very, very clumsy. He stomps when he moves. And I've heard him going up, and I've heard him going down. And one time I was working on a patient here. It was 10 o'clock at night. It was a sledding accident. A kid had run into a tree and just tore his mouth all to pieces. And the kid was, I had the chair back. I like to work with the chair back all the time. But he was working, or he was sitting like in a very reclined position because he was bleeding, and I wanted to get the blood cleaned up out of his throat as I was working on him, like this. I'll get it in a minute. There we go. His mother was standing right over here, and there were lots of instruments here on the tray, and I was working right here. We heard that man coming down the stairs. The door was closed, and the boy raised up. The mother backed up, and she looked at me like, because we all knew that there shouldn't be someone else here. Yeah, that late at night, there shouldn't be anybody else in the office. And I went like this. There was a scalpel on the tray. I picked up the scalpel, and I tiptoed over there, and I jerked the door open, expecting to see some big guy standing there with a sack full of stuff, and there was no one there. I ran through the waiting room, checked that door, and I ran into the business office and checked that door. Well, then it hit me. It was just a ghost. We have nothing to worry about. I was relieved. I came back in here, and I said, "Don't worry. It was not. There's not a person in here." And she said, "Well, yeah, there is. We heard him." I said, "No, you just heard my ghost." Well, that didn't solve any problems at all. They were wanting out of here.
Out of here.
So I told the kid, I said, "Well, stay here just a couple of seconds, and I'll finish what I can, and then we'll do the rest tomorrow. So he wanted out here so quick. When I finally said, okay, you can go now, he didn't even wait for the chair to come back down. He and his mother both were out of here and in the parking lot and gone before I could even get the lights turned off.
Did they come back?
Oh yeah. In fact, she came back as an employee about.
Oh, did she?
I'd say 10 years later. But.
So, what do you use the upstairs for? Is it?
It's really for us to go upstairs and just relax. It's more.
Oh, it's not rental. You don't.
No,
rent
it's not
it.
rental. I don't rent. Nothing is rented out.
Mm-hmm.
We just go up there and there's a luncheonette area. There's lounging areas and so forth. And I have a laboratory up there, and we store some supplies up there and things like that. But it's mostly just to go up and if somebody wants to go up and eat a sandwich or make a cup of coffee or something, they can do that. So now we'll